Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we revisit a brand not often featured here on this channel, nor is it common anywhere else. This is the L.Leroy Chronograph Marine. So the model you see in my hand launched in 2013, the latest embodiment of a name brand that goes back at least in name to 1785, though the modern L.Leroy was created in the early 2010s and after a period of dormancy beginning in 2023, rumbled back to life this year, 2025. So with L.Leroy back in circulation, this looks like a good time to discuss the Chronograph Marine in white gold that debuted in 2013. So 43 millimeters in diameter, it's 13.1 millimeters thick. It's actually thinner than you think, from lug tip to lug tip. 52.1 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference and wears nicely, though it is big. I would say that this is probably the smallest wrist that can wear the watch. If your wrist is 16 centimeters circumference and up, game on. You'll find it wears well. You can see that it's a handsome looking watch, thinner than you would expect in profile given how massive it is, although it is a little bit sheer, but it should slip underneath most cuffs. You can see relative to my arm, it's actually not too big. Relative to my hand, it's not too big. It's a good looking watch and very solid in the hand, heavy. You can see the strap, very high quality, large, rectangular, symmetrical scale alligator leather, always indicative of a select and expensive cut of the beast. Taking a look, it's a semi-gloss black with a contrasting stitch. It's got a little bit of stuffing, or bolstering as they call it, with a rolled edge. You can see on the bottom we have calf skin and a buckle that, like the watch, is made of 18 karat white gold. Taking a close look at the watch, you can see that it's a fascinating thing with a lot of surface interest and unconventional forms. So we've got a little bit of the look of maybe a wristwatch that grew out of the form of a pocket watch. If I had to interpret what all of this surface detail is supposed to convey, it would be that, as the original Leroy firm would have worked in a pocket watch paradigm inherent to initially 18th century horology. So that's kind of the idea being conveyed here. Also, there's a little bit of a look of perhaps a deck clock or a marine chronometer, which is the other idea that's supposed to be conveyed by this marine chronograph. That marine element, definitely navigation clocks, consistent with the history of the brand. On the dial, we have a deck-like plank pattern that's cut using a guilloche technique. And then you can see we've got a gloss track outboard for the hours, which are radially arrayed in white. You can see we've got a watchmaker's 4. We've got a chaptering outboard that allows us to read minutes, seconds, and fractions of seconds with the chronograph. We have strap that is held to the case using a series of screws and bars, which is a very durable and secure way of fixing a strap to a case. I'm quite happy to see that. I'm quite happy to see that it also applies to the buckle itself, so these things cannot easily pull off. You don't have to worry about spring bar failure. The buckle is a fascinating thing. What's fascinating to me about the buckle is that it seems to include an element of burnishing on traditional rhodium-plated white gold. So you can see how you've got sort of that darker, warmer tone shining through. So that's what's going on the buckle, if you're wondering why its tone is so dramatically different from the case itself, even though they're the same material. You can see it does have this open, airy, sort of evacuated design that in some ways echoes the profile of the case. We've got these unusually tapered inward-facing pushers for the chronograph. Then we've got the L.Leroy logo, media blast with polish on a crown that is a screw down, and the watch is water resistant down to 100 meters. Turning it all over, you can see that this watch, which they want you to remember, is the product of Besançon, France, the traditional watchmaking heartland, along with Morteau and Paris of France. So on the dial, you have some of those marine chronometer elements, including the individual numbering. Again, that is the touchstone, marine chronometer design. We've got a little polished frame for a date that does include a quick set, and the movement on the inside. If you're a long-time horological boffin, you probably already recognize this as a Frederic Biguet 1185. confusingly with a BVL model designation, suggesting that it is simultaneously somehow related to Bulgari's watches of the modern era, but that's more of a coincidence. 5-position adjustment. Of course, it is a watch that features an automatic winding 40-hour power reserve and a 3 hertz beat rate, 37 pivot joules. You've got that high horology style 5-position adjustment. You've got column wheel action for crisp function selection, and then a vertical clutch so it engages without any jump or stagger when you engage the chronograph. The only feature it does not have is a hacking seconds function, as that is not endemic to the 1185 series of movements. But it is a very high horology movement featured on many Blancpain, Breguet, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron, and other high-end chronograph models through the years. We've got a unique Leroy nautical wheel-inspired rotor with a mass on the end in 18-karat gold, and you can see that this is overall a handsome architecture in addition to being nicely decorated, though not overly artisanal. It is nicely decorated, and you definitely get your money's worth, as this is a thin, fine, purpose-built, integrated automatic chronograph movement, once again with a 40-hour power reserve. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.